Hey, friends.
My name is Angelica,
And I'm Austin.
and welcome to
Crayons.
And Pencils. Woo! As you guys have noticed, our platform looks a little bit different now. So now you can physically see us. But don't worry, we're still going to be an actual podcast. So you still get to listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and any other podcast that you listen to. So iHeartRadio. But this time we just want to try something different. So if this goes well, you'll see more of this. And if it doesn't go well, you're just not going to see us anymore.
We will get out. Never see it again.
Never.
But hopefully, our nice and beautiful faces.
Exactly.
Okay.
So kind of starting off, Austin, I have a question for you. So what are some things that sound like a compliment, but was actually an insult?
I can't think of a couple, but I think one of the one that stood out to me the most was when I think it was like a second grader, maybe. They looked at me and I was just singing my heart out. I'm going to just use that as an example. I said, "It's a dance party. It's a dance party." And so we was just dancing. And then the little child walked up to me and said, "Austin, if you really try, you could actually sing." And I said, "What?" I just didn't know how to take that. I was supposed to say like, "Thank you," or like, but that's probably one of my major insults. But what about you, Miss McDonald?
Those little kids have no filter at all. No filter. So for me, so I can't think of anything in the classroom specifically, but I do remember when I was younger. So from about elementary till about, it's still elementary. So from as long as I can remember till about from second grade till about maybe sixth grade, I've always wore glasses. So I always had like these little round glasses. So I was very adorable with my glasses. And so my parents asked me if I wanted to wear contacts. So that's where I'm wearing now. I wear contacts. And it's like, sure, let me try contacts. It was a long time trying to put those things in, but I finally got it in, wore them to school. And no one's ever called me pretty, ever. Never my teachers, never my friends, no one. But once I had those contacts, and I got so many compliments like, "Oh my gosh, you're so pretty. You're very beautiful." And so the entire time I'm thinking, it's supposed to be a compliment, but the entire time I'm thinking, was I ugly this entire time and no one told me? Of course, my parents always said I'm pretty. Parents are always encouraging you. I was like, I felt horrible all day. Like even the principal came, I was like, "Oh my gosh, Angelica, you're so pretty." I'm like, "Thank you."
No comment.
So
I guess our singing and our beauty, I said, my singing and your beauty is just too much for the world.
Too much.
I just can't handle it. So we're going to dive into our discussion for today. This discussion is going to be all about young teachers. And as you know, I'm currently in the education program, also doing a little bit of student teaching. And we have Miss McDonald here in her third year teaching. So we're pretty young in the field. So we have a lot of stuff that we kind of want to dig deep and talk about. So let's talk about some pros. Do you have some pros, Miss McDonald?
Yeah, so as being a young teacher, there are a lot of pros and cons. So a lot of times when people are talking about new teachers, they always say the horrible things that happen in the educational system that kind of throws young teachers out. But there are actually a lot of good pros once I started thinking about as being a young teacher. The one thing, because you're new, you're kind of inexperienced in a lot of things. So especially when you join your school, they normally, if it's a really good school, most of the time they'll give you a lot of grace. And so that's what I loved about my school. So a lot of things, because as a new teacher, they put so much at you at one time. So here's the emergency procedures. Here's this procedure. Here's this and this and that. And you're kind of overwhelmed because one, you're just trying to survive. And now you have all these different, school culture you have to know. But they give you so much grace. So like for me, I didn't know we were supposed to sign in a certain way at my school. So I didn't sign in for almost like a whole month. And then they finally told us.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was also during COVID too. So it was a lot of different new procedures that everyone else in the school was trying to get used to. So they didn't know about that as well. And so once I found out, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't do this." But the school and the district was super understanding. Like, they're like, "Oh, you didn't know." Or sometimes like small things like certain things we had to do for like submitting plans. I didn't know we had to submit lesson plans. I thought you just create it for yourself. I didn't know we had to submit them. So everyone will give you so
Mm.
much grace as a teacher, because if you don't know something, you just didn't know. And so they'll help you out, at least if it's a really good school. What about you? What's another pro you can think about?
I know, like with me, I was always just wanting to help somebody, and like just because like in my senior year, I was like in like an apprenticeship program, so it kind of like carried on to like now. But just when teachers, I would always go and ask teachers, "Did you need anything? Did you need anything? What can I do for you?" And I was just like so willing to help, and I think for them, they were like, "Oh my goodness, we have this extra set of hands that can do these little things that you really don't think about." And I think it just made a lot of other people's lives easier. It kept me busy, but I know like now I can't really like help people like I want to, but I just know that that's kind of like one of the pros as like a young teacher. I get to like yeah, but like being actually like in the field, like having my own students from time to time, I think it's very easy to relate to a lot of them because I've worked with a lot of them a lot as an assistant. So when I get to like kind of teach them or have them for myself for like an hour, I get to actually like talk to them. We actually have like deeper relationships. So our conversations are a little bit more meaningful and we can have different discussions. They're a lot personal. We can do different activities. I can keep them engaged a little bit easier. So I think with that part, just being able to be closer to their level and age wise and just having deeper connections and relationships with them has allowed me to just be able to move into this education realm a little bit easier than probably some others. But yeah. What
Yeah,
about
that's
some cons? What are some like negative?
so there's a lot of negatives going back. But I did want to go back to one more pro as a
Oh
young
yeah.
teacher. Sometimes as a young teacher, because one, you're just coming out of college, so you're still trying to pay for everything. You're finally figuring out your paycheck, especially if you're. So when we're talking about young, so
Yeah.
we just came out of the program, should be like 20 something years old. The
Mm-hmm.
one thing people are really gracious about is helping you out with either money or food sometimes. So they know, like, oh, you're hungry. Here's some food. Don't eat everyone's cooking. That's what I'm saying. But sometimes, like, I will have like some mentor teachers, like they'll just give me something here and there, just kind of help me, or people who weren't even my mentor,
Mm-hmm.
like just like, oh, we know you're almost like a college student, like you need some food. And so they're willing to give you, some extra food. So people are really more generous as a young teacher. So they're willing to help you out more compared to maybe if you're an older teacher or a veteran teacher, because you're kind of, in used to the way. But as a young teacher, people are so much willing to help you out. So if they see you're struggling, they will willing to help. Like, oh, you need help with this? They'll jump right in. At least at my school. Of course, there are some schools, so make sure you go to a school that has a good culture. But I know the school I
Mm-hmm.
am at, good like teacher culture where a lot of people do try to help each other out. But there's some schools I do know that you're literally on an island by yourself. But the one thing as a new
Mm-hmm.
teacher, as ties into the cons as well. If you feel like you don't have that support, you have to ask for help. Because I know there were some other young teachers that I knew who were just sitting there, just like, I'm struggling, but they would never ask for help. They knew they were struggling, but they wouldn't ask for help. So the one thing you have to know as a young teacher, or even a veteran teacher, ask for help. Like my grandma was saying, don't sit there and die. And I tell that to my kids too. So if you know you're struggling and you need help, don't just sit there. No one can read your brain. We're not sidekicks. I can't read your brain. I can look at Austin. He might be going through right now, but I can't tell because he's smiling right now. So I don't know if he's struggling with something. So you have to open up your mouth and ask for help. And if that person doesn't help you, find someone else who's willing to help you. So never be afraid to ask for help. But I guess it does tie into the cons
And I
as
know
well. Go ahead.
I just because when you were talking, I just thought of like another pro. So like being a young teacher, I feel like it gives you a greater advantage to just try different things
Yeah,
because I
definitely.
know when you get older and you're like a veteran teacher, you're kind of like I got my system, I already know what kind of works. But as a young teacher, I think this is the opportunity for you to try different strategies, try different skills, go to different people and ask for their input, and then try it for yourself. Tweak a little bit, do a little bit of this, do a little bit of that, and see what works for you. So I think at this age, especially for me, I cannot even tell you how many strategies I've tried in the classroom. I've tried from clapping to dancing to shouting to singing. I've tried so many different ones, and just being able to do that, and not only in one classroom but in multiple classrooms, because I think the highest I've worked with as like maybe like as an assistant is I want to say 14-year-olds. I think that
Mm-hmm.
might have been the highest, and I think the lowest might have been 5-year-olds. So like that 5 to 14 range has allowed me to try like a lot of different things. So as a young teacher, I think that gives you a greater advantage in that.
Oh yeah, and
Yes.
even when you're older, still never be afraid to try something new. So even with my
Mhm.
third year, I'm trying something different with reading, independent reading. Like every semester, I've done something new because I'm still trying to figure out the way I want to make it more streamlined and also more engaging for students. So some things have worked, some
Yes.
things have completely went downhill, and I have said I am not doing that again. So I learned my lesson.
That's what my mom would always say. She would say, it never hurts to try because the worst thing you can do is fail. And if you fail, you just try again.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's how I see it. Let's try again. Okay, so guys, we talked all about pros. Let's get into the cons. There are a lot of things that us young teachers experience. And this, let me tell you, it's a lot. But let me tell you one of the main things that I experience, and it just frustrates me. Whenever I go into a classroom, people assume that I have no classroom management. And it's like, it's like 50-50 because I know personally that I still struggle with certain things like how to keep children focused. Like that's one of my main things because I'm so energetic and loud. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And when they finally get to work, they're like, Mr. Austin, we don't want to do this. What are you talking about? We just want to watch a movie. What happened to this fun man you were just 2 seconds ago? And I'm like, yeah, but we got to work. So like, I know that aspect for me is a little bit hard, but as like I'm growing and learning, I'm learning how to do different things that are growing me as a person. But what I hate is when people come to me and they're like, "Oh, Austin's pretty young, and so he doesn't really know what he's doing." And whenever like a class is loud or we're doing something fun, people are like, "Oh, you don't know what you're doing. Let me help calm your class down." Like they come and try to rescue me, and I'm like, "Yes, I love when you come and help me, but don't like come and baby me because like I'm not a baby. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to quote unquote fail so that I can try again and get it right." But it's just like a lot of people, they're kind of like, oh, Austin's probably not going to get this right. So I'm just going to kind of help him because he doesn't really know what he's doing. And I'm like, hey, I'm just like you. We're learning and growing. Don't let my age mistake my greatness. You know what I'm saying?
But I like how you said like people are like just willing to just go ahead and rescue you. So it tied in
Mm,
with our pros, like you want people to help you, want people to come in, but sometimes for us to learn, we also have to fill in a way. Maybe not to the extreme. Like if there's a kid throwing a chair in the room, please come and help me. Like,
yeah, help now.
like come in and help me. But sometimes we have to learn. It's like we tell our students it's okay to fail so you can learn. So I know like my
Mm-hmm.
first year, especially my first year teaching, well, everyone always says the first year was tough, but I know my year was especially tough because it was right when COVID started.
I
Go
think
ahead.
like for me, since I'm such an overachiever, I take all like the little things and I'll just be like, oh my gosh, it failed. And so
Mm-hmm.
like I know like for like, being a young teacher, of course you're gonna kinda like overreact over like little things. But like for me, especially like during after school when I was finally like getting my chance to be able to teach and run it the way how I want to run it, when certain things wouldn't go the way they were supposed to, I would just get in the car and leave and cry. I sat
Mm-hmm.
in that car and I would cry. And
Mm-hmm.
then my dad would just drive all the way home, and I just cry on my way home, and I'd get back in my room, lay back in the bed, and start crying. And so I feel like as a young teacher, like I feel like we take stuff to heart very personally
We do.
because I feel like we're all perfections. Like we work, and like I am working, but I know like for some people that are already finished, they've worked like their behinds off to get to where they're at. Like they said, like we put in the effort, and so finally when they're doing it, and you're kind of like, wait a minute, that's not the way I was expecting. That perfectionist society is going to kind of like break down. So I think that's like
Mm-hmm.
another kind of issue that a lot of young teachers kind of go through as well.
Yeah, because you go through like an
Yeah.
overwhelming waterfall of emotions. So like, because a lot of young
Mm-hmm.
teachers expect like every day to go perfect or every day to be awesome, and that's not it. So like
Mm-hmm.
literally like last week was like a weird roller coaster of events. Like Monday and Tuesday was just like if day. Wednesday and Thursday, I had a great day with the class, like amazing. We had fun. Then literally the next day, I had to yell at all of them, "Be quiet, be quiet!" And one kid was like, "Leave Miss McDonald alone." They're like, "You pissing off Miss McDonald." I was like, "Yes, y'all," and they're looking at me. I was like, "Yes, you guys are." And it was literally the same class. I love this class, but like one day they were awesome, amazing. We had fun. Then the next day, literally 360. So does that mean I'm an awful teacher or that I should not teach anymore? But that's some like my first year, I would feel that way. Like some days were awesome. I was like, "Oh, I'm an awesome teacher." And the next day, feel like I wanted to quit. quit because it was just an awful day. But just because you have an awful day doesn't reflect who you are as a, like, your whole identity as a teacher. Even in other professions, people have good days, bad days. Like that song you were singing one time, we are like, I have some good days, I had some bad days, and some hills to climb. So you're going to have that as a new teacher. So it's okay to feel like you're not doing the best, or you're not, because again, you can't, even though
Yeah.
we are supposed to give from 100%, but some days you can't give 100% every single day. And I think that's an expectation some schools or districts have for you young teachers. They're like, oh, because they're new, they have so much energy, they can do this. And so there's another con. They'll try to put a
Mm,
lot on your plate
right.
because they expect you have so much energy that you
Mm,
can do everything. Or maybe you're single, like, oh, they don't have a family, they're single, they can have more time to be a part of this club and this club and do this and that. No, just because don't have my own family doesn't mean I don't have a life outside of school. Like, I have other things that I do that takes up my time, and also just for like your mental health. So just because you are new to the school and district, you don't have to say yes to everything. So it kind of ties back to our last podcast, or a podcast we had 2 weeks ago. Just because someone asks you to do something, you don't have to do it. You are allowed to say no as a young teacher. You don't have to put everything on your plate to be amazing. So you don't have to be part of the drama club, the beta club, honor society, be over all these things, because you will burn out so quickly. So your first year, I would encourage you, just unless you really have nothing to do, maybe don't join anything. Just try to figure yourself out as a teacher, get your lesson plans and all that stuff done. So at least in afternoon, just get your break. And if you feel like maybe your next year or your new semester that you can join something, then do that. But your very first year, just try to take it slow, because you already have so much on your plate and so many things happening. You're learning the district, you're learning about these new policies and procedures. So don't put everything on your plate. So just take it easy, take it slow, because you're still learning, and over time you'll get it. And if you don't, like we said earlier, it's okay to fail. You just, do better the next time. What about you, Austin? Have you ever had this
get
problem?
up and try.
People mistake you as a student.
It's just like, I think, because like, okay, I got to get my thoughts together because because I'm still working at the same place. So when I was first there, I was a student. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the kids that saw me, I still had to address them and say, I'm a teacher, but I'm also a student. And they had to know that, just because like the conversations we were having. But when I transitioned from a student to like this teacher assistant kind of role, a lot of the kids are like, you're still a student. Like, what are you doing? Why are you telling me to sit down and do my work? I don't have to listen to you. And I'm just kind of like, just like, why me? So like, I think it's kind of like the misconceptions that come like within the students. Now with like teachers, especially with people that do not know me, they look at me and they'll like, and I'm walking around, got my little stuff I got to do. And I have my little book bag on, because I love walking around with my book bag. And so like, a lot of people, they'll say like, oh, good morning. How are you? Are you excited for today? And I'm like, yeah, thanks for asking me that. And they're like, then they would be like, okay, so where are you going? What class are you in? I'm like, what? I mean, like, yeah, I'm subbing in such and such class. They said, subbing? I thought you were a student. I was like, no, I'm a teacher. I said, I know I look young, but don't let that get in your head. I said, I'm a teacher. And like, I remember this one day, this is kind of like prior to, but I was like, it was my senior year, and I met one of the new teachers. But instead of the new teacher thinking I was a teacher, well, a student, they thought I was a teacher. Because when I walked in, I was like, hey, what you need? How you doing? How can I help you? And they're like, oh, thank you so much. And like, you're not supposed to like let me do certain things, because I'm not a teacher yet. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
a student, by law. And so just like some of the things they're kind of like asking me to do, I was kind of like, oh, I can't do that. I don't know nothing about that. I'm just going to staple some papers for you and fix your board and write your date. I was like, I don't know how to do that. And so like, they were like, and a lot of the teachers, they'd be like, oh, I thought you were a teacher. I'm like, no, I'm a student. And so like, kind of like back and forth, like some people think I'm a student, some think I'm a teacher. So just like, I'm in like this weird phase of where just like, people just don't know who I am. And I'm just like, if you don't know, I sure don't know, because we just struggling. But I feel like it's kind of like my misconception. We just all mixed up in there. But what about you? You got any funny stories about it?
Oh, yeah. So, especially with me, being a new teacher, and even though people do assume I'm a student, some people take that the wrong way, but I will take that as long as I can. So at least I look young, because I don't want to say I'm 20 something years old and look like I'm 50. So I would take it as long as I can, but sometimes it
Right.
doesn't work well for me. So one day it was raining outside, and I usually come to school very early. And I had a hoodie on because it was raining, so had my hoodie on, and I was just rushing in so I can go ahead and get my stuff done because I like to be there early, get everything settled, and I knew I had a first block class that semester, so I'm rushing in. I forgot my hoodie was on, so I just came in. I was just going, I had my little purse. No, actually, maybe I had a book bag. I don't remember, but I was just rushing in. Then I hear a man yell behind me, "Hey, take that hoodie off!" And I'm like, "Yes, sir." I take my hoodie off, and I turn, and it was one of the hall monitors. He's like, "Oh, it's you, Miss McDonald. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." I'm like, "Thank you." And I walked out. I was like, "Oh my goodness." I was scared. I was like, "Oh, yes, sir." I just went off. And then one time when I was student teaching, I was trying to go to my mentor teacher's room. And so, because I could just like go upstairs, and it was early in the morning, so I guess kids are not supposed to be in that hall or go upstairs because they're not supposed to be up there. And so I'm just rushing in so I can get there. And then this teacher stops me. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm going upstairs to see Miss what's her face." She's like, "You can't see Miss what's her face." I was like, "Why not?" She's like, "You're supposed to be in the lunchroom." And she's like literally yelling at me. And I was like, "I'm a student teacher," and I'm like trying to find my badge. She's like, "No, you're not." I'm like, "Yes, I am." And I show her my badge. She's like, "Oh, okay." And she just like, she doesn't apologize or anything. That was like, "Okay, ma'am, that was very rude." So I wonder how she treats her students then. I was like, that was very, like, I understand, like, not like making sure the kids don't go upstairs, they take you seriously, but she could at least apologize. Like, "Oh, I made a mistake." And she was yelling at me. I was like, okay.
I feel like it's just like I noticed like when I was in middle school, I feel like just middle school and like on up, even like fifth grade, just like because like a lot of teachers could be like the same heights as their students and look just the same. It just puts you in like a really bad situation if they just don't know you and you're trying to like correct them. Because like I was talking to this one student, I think they were in middle school, but they were new, so they didn't know me. So I was just kind of like, "Good morning, how are you?" And they just like looked at me like, "Are you crazy?" And like I was just like, "I'm a teacher," and like I think it's somebody else, a teacher also said it, and they said good morning to them. I was like, "Okay, rude," but I think like I was just kind of like, "Oh, he probably didn't know I was a teacher," because like I don't wear like a badge or anything. Like what you see is what you get, all up in this box right here. This is all you gonna get. So I think like people when they see me, they're just kind of.
And sometimes I'm wearing a badge. I'm like, "You don't see this badge on me."
Yeah. Because even sometimes I'll even wear like my college's band around my neck, and like I'll walk around with it. Like I don't see this college. Like is this like ringing in the head? Like, and I guess they're just assuming like I'm young, but you know I'm just gonna like soak all this in because like I know one day I won't look young. I'll be old, so I'm just gonna like soak it in, be like enjoy my
Like,
youthfulness.
oh, I'll be 70 something, still looking like this, and even better. Yes, with some nice hair.
Right.
So
We have my oh.
you'll be looking old, I'll be looking young. Black don't crack.
Oh, oh.
Black history.
I don't know.
Alrighty, guys. So before we end off, we want to play a quick game called Never Have I Ever. So Austin has not seen these questions as well, and I just popped these up. So these are supposed to be teacher questions. So if we have done this before, you take a sip out of I only have a little bit of green tea left in my mug, and Austin has a little water bottle. So I think the way you play it, if you have done it, you take a sip, and if you have not done it, you just look at the camera. I think.
Just be like, "Hey."
All right.
Yeah, that's not about. Oh no! So if I done it, I sip it.
I think so.
Right.
And if you haven't done it, just okay. I think that's how it works.
Like, okay, I'm ready.
All right. Never have I ever redirected a random child in public who was misbehaving.
Wait, I can't even drink it.
Your name is. Well, I'm almost out of green tea. I'm literally at the end. So what happened, Austin?
I just wanted to prove to somebody I could tell them to be quiet. So I looked at the child. I said, "Be quiet." They were like, "What did I do? I didn't do anything." I think we were just standing in line, and I just wanted to show everybody I could keep them quiet. And then like all the adults looked at me, and they were like, "Oh my goodness, you got Mr. Austin mad." And I was like, "Yeah, that's how you do it. You keep it quiet." And so That was pretty embarrassing. I felt bad for that child. I really did. But it helped me out though.
Okay. For me, there was like this random kid. I don't know if this would count then. It's like not really misbehaving, but the kid was like wandering away from the mom. And like she was going somewhere else. I was like, baby, you can't go. And I literally ran after the baby because the mom wasn't paying attention. But it's kind of hard being
Like
a mom.
your teacher instincts just kick in like the most random places. Because like I'll see kids, they'll just be like walking away, and then just like, hey, your child, get your child. You're in the middle of the mall, like all these people. And then like I feel bad if I tell this story, but like I don't know. I hope these people don't join this podcast. I thought I was sitting in the car with my brother. And this is where my teacher instincts kind of kicked in because I was like, why would you do that to your parent? But basically, like, the children got into the car, and I thought that they locked the car. And, like, because they were already yelling when they got out the car, but when they walked back into the car, they got into the car, and I think they locked it. And then the man was just standing at the window, and he was like, he's very, like, calm parent. He was like, open the door, please. And the children just looked at him and didn't open the door. And I was like, wait. Did the children just lock this parent out of the car? And he was just standing there talking, and then the children were just sitting there in the car. And I was like, oh my goodness, these children are rebelling to open the door for their parent. And so I was just like, if I was their parent, I would have got out. Like my teacher just wanted to get out of my car to go to their car to bust that window open to get them out. But then I found out that there was a wife in the car, and he was just talking to the wife.
Oh.
And so that was just like a mistake, and I was just thinking that all happened.
That's why we just.
And I said, "This is why I have to stay out of people's business." I said, "Stay out of people's business." I do think they were divorced, though.
Why do you think?
I said, I do think they were divorced. Though.
You have a whole
the way you were just talking to my
story. All right, here's another.
Let's keep it educational. Okay.
Here's another one. Okay. Never have I ever refused to name my own children the same as a difficult student I had in the past. So both of us don't have kids, but now, like maybe you had a thought like you were going to have the name of this child, and then you had a kid with that same name, and they misbehaved. You're like, whenever I have kids, I'm never going to name them that name.
I never thought about that, but since you said it, I think I'm thinking about that.
Yeah, there's some kids in my head now. Like I was actually thinking, I was like, oh, this might be a good boy name. Never again. Nope. Never.
No.
We both got this one. Never have I ever cried in my car in the parking lot after school. So that is different. Like I don't cry at the parking lot at school, but I've cried at home, or in the bathroom at school. I have cried in the bathroom at school. I still sit for that.
I feel like you're right. I'm not even gonna ask. But I was gonna say like just because like I rode with my dad a lot because I would get into the car and wait for him, to get ready to go. I would just sit in the car, and I would just break down in tears. Go. Like, and then I even cried one time leaving a classroom, walking into another classroom. So I walked between the buildings behind it so nobody could see me so that I could just break down crying. And my brother saw me though, but I was trying to like keep it together. I was just like, I did my little teardrop like this. You do a little fancy drop. I said, I'm okay.
I mean, people are surprised.
I cried a lot.
That often. Like I really don't cry that often. So if I cry, I cry. So one time, like it wasn't even a bad day at school. I was having like a pretty all right, but I think so much was happening. I was just overwhelmed. And I was asking the assistant principal something. And all he said, he's like, are you okay? I was like, yeah. I started crying. And I was so mad at myself. I was like, why am I crying? Because literally he's like, oh no. It gave me like a pat on the back. He's like, it's going to be okay. I'm like, I don't know why am I crying. I'm like, because literally I was just like coming to ask him a question. I was like, he's like, all he said was, are you okay? And I was going to say, yeah. I was like, yeah. And I like burst out crazy. Oh, and so he like watched my class for a moment so I could get myself together. And he gave me some crackers, which was really nice. And so I like, got myself together. I was like, okay. I was like, I'm good now. I think because I had so many emotions bottled up for so long that I just finally just let it out. It's like finally broke out. So I didn't cry in the parking lot, but I cried in the office and I cried in the bathroom.
I know I cried when my students made me. Because I was joking with this one teacher, and it was like Teacher Appreciation Week, and I was a student, I was like, oh, I said, I'm so happy that y'all are my teachers, my mentors. I said, are y'all going to get me anything? Because I'm a teacher. You know, I like to claim it in the atmosphere, you know, call myself a teacher. And so, like, you know, I didn't get anything that week until that last day. The group of students had called me in, and I finished teaching whatever math lesson. I think it was like measurement, and I started grading the little papers. And I think I don't know if you call it the cooperating teacher. No, what do you call the lead teacher in the classroom?
Go ahead.
Yeah, whoever. But I guess the cooperating lead head teacher came up and was like, "Hey, we have this little book," and basically, and I wish I brought it with me, but it had like Happy Teacher Appreciation Day on it, and every child, like, because these group of students were learning how to write, so like they wrote this whole full-on paragraph, and every child had their own page in the little book, and like when I saw them come up and they read their stuff, I just like broke down crying, and it was all on video, and I was just like, y'all, because I don't ever cry in front of my students. Cause like, listen, it's a mess. But like, I full on was just like tears, and like they were laughing at me. They were like, "Oh my goodness, you're crying!" But like that meant a lot for me. But you know, that was a little off topic. But yeah,
no, because you still cry like all those emotions. Like I try my best never to cry in front of kids, but sometimes it's never the kids who really make me cry. It's just like a lot of things. Like if I have a lot of pressure on me, and then I just like hold it in for a long time, and I never really like I'm. Person, like I kind of put it to the back of my head, like I ignore it for a little bit. I was like, it's gonna be fine, I'm gonna make it through. Then suddenly like, oh, I gotta let it out. Right. And I just cried, and after that I'm like, oh, I'm okay. And I'm just like a 360. All right, here's a last one. Never have I ever locked myself in a dark storage closet in school, just to get a couple of minutes of silence during the day.
You know you did when you locked yourself in your classroom. Oh! You can count that though. You locked.
No, the bathroom. Wait, we have to tell the story. I was in a professional development. Well, it wasn't for silence. I got locked in because I didn't want to. I couldn't get out. So I was in this professional development at this school, and so I had to use the bathroom. So we're in the library, and so they have this back room in the library to use the bathroom, but the whole place in the back is brick, and there was this very thick door. And so to go in the bathroom is like this own little room. So I was like, hey guys, I'm going to the bathroom. They're like, okay. So I leave, go to the bathroom, close the door, lock it, get done and everything, wash my hands. And I turn the knob. It doesn't open. I'm like, turn it again. Doesn't open. I turn it the other way. Doesn't open. I push and turn. Doesn't open. I'm like, turn, push, pull. And I'm like yanking the door. I was like, oh God, this is not opening. And I was like, wait, maybe I'm just, my hands are sweaty. So I dry my hands. Try again. It doesn't open. I'm like, oh God. I was like, this is my worst nightmare. And I keep pushing and pushing. And I was like, oh God. So I was like, maybe someone will hear me. And I leave my phone in the room. So I don't have my phone with me. I have my iWatch, but it's disconnected from my phone because my phone is so far away. I'm like, oh my gosh, no one knows I'm in here. So I bam on the door, like bam, 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 bam. It's like, and I put my face to the door. I'm like, help me. I'm like, help me! I'm stuck in the bathroom! And then I look at myself like, this is so embarrassing. And so I wait a moment, literally a moment, so maybe they'll hear me. Nothing. I'm like, bam, 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 bam. Help me! I'm stuck in the bathroom! Nothing. I'm like, I'm in the bathroom! Help me! Bam, 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 bam. I think I was stuck in there for like 15 minutes. And I was like praying. I was like, I've never heard in my life. I was like, God, I don't want to be stuck in this bathroom. No one knows I'm in here. And I see paper towels on the side, and there was a pencil. I was like, why? So I tear the paper towel, and I write, help, I'm stuck in the bathroom. And then I take the paper towel and push it underneath the door. I was like, Lord, I hope someone sees this. I do it again. I was like, I'm in the bathroom. Miss McDonald is stuck in the bathroom, and I throw it underneath the door. And so like there's these walls, and like I can hear the people through the brick wall because I can hear the music and stuff. And so I bam on the brick, even though my hand is hurt. I'm like, I'm in the bathroom. And I put my mouth to the wall. I'm like, I'm in the bathroom. Help me. No one still hears me. I'm pacing in the bathroom. Like I pray so hard. I was like, God, please get me out of here. I said, I can't be in here. And so I hold the door now one last time. I'm like, Lord, open this door, please. And I push one good time, and it opens. And right when I open the door, the lady was right there. She's like, oh, there you are. I looked at her like, you didn't hear me? She's like, no, we were looking for you. She's like, no, we didn't hear anything. I was like, I was like, I was yelling and crying for 15 minutes. They're like, oh, we thought you left. I was like, what? I was stuck in the back. Like, I literally tried every way I could to open that door. It would not open. And then she's like, oh, why is these towels out here? I'm like, I was writing help the entire time. Because they were wondering what happened to you. I was so frustrated. And so she had to tell the principal and stuff, like the door was locked. And turns out a janitor said, oh, yeah, that happened to me too. It's like, what? So I didn't do that.
Anyways.
Yeah, I was like, what? Y'all did that to me? But yeah, so I didn't do that for moment of silence or break. I was stuck in there and, I thought I was never going to get out of there. The Lord heard my cry. But before we end, Austin had a very good quote that he wanted to end us off with. It's one of his favorite TED Talks of all time. Austin, tell us your quote.
Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them and understands the power of connection and insists they become their best selves that they can possibly be. By Rita Pearson. I love that quote, and I hope it inspired you.
Awesome, awesome. Beautiful quote. Okay. Well, thank you. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Crayons and Pencils.
Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on all platforms from Spotify,
Apple Podcasts,
Google Podcast,
Amazon Music,
and iHeartRadio. So, from drawing in crayons
to writing in pencils, we are
Crayons
and Pencils.
Bye. See y'all later.